Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to take a look at the Caddx Turtle, the newest entry to the market of HD FPV. You know, I did the Split Mini and I wasn't a big fan of it. The HD is good. It's not GoPro good, but it's way better than anything else we've really got to offer. And that came in a 2-board configuration. There are some other entries coming. The Runcam Split Mini 2, which we've seen some images of that around. Don't know when that's going to be launching. And also Foxeer has their own line. But let's take a look at the HD of the Caddx Turtle. So in this flight, I am recording in 1080p. I am recording also at 30 frames per second. I did tinker with the others, and I'm going to say right away, this isn't a real deep dive as far as a review goes. Mainly what we're most interested in is what's the HD look like, what's the FPV look like, and you know, kind of how does it function, what does it weigh, you know, how do we mount it up, things of that nature. This one has a pretty big advantage in my opinion in that it does have many different settings that we can change via the traditional little clicker. In this footage, I don't see a lot of jello. I see some work to be done on the PID tune, but as far as when I'm flying straight and just kind of cruising around, I think the image looks pretty good. At least I'm pleased with it. Those of you who might be more discernible, you know, you leave your opinions down below. But I was pretty happy with it. You probably also notice a bit of my carbon fiber on both the left and the right hand side. A good reviewer maybe would have taken that out, but I left it in as a reminder that this has got a really wide field of view, and so to protect your camera is going to be a little bit difficult. You're going to have to get the edge of the lens right up near your camera protection if you have some. You see I do a punch out over the house, and that means I have the confidence to fly with it. Now that we've seen a little bit of the HD footage, I think it's time to jump to that oh so important part, the FPV side. If we can overlook the fact that for some reason the VTX I've got this in is just junk, I need to work on that. I might have to get a new VTX in this machine. The FPV is kind of, it's similar in that it's not real bright. It's also similar in that it's very soft, or some people call that muddy. It's not very crisp or sharp, so seeing scraggle in those months where we don't have many leaves on our branches is going to continue to be a challenge. With this product coming to market, all the camera manufacturers now have something to look at. They have something to focus on. They have something that they can get feedback from pilots on. And so we're going to see iterations, I would hope, getting better and better, not only on the HD side, but also on the FPV side. I think this is a slightly bit more flyable than the Split Mini. But again, it's not nearly as good as far as the FPV side as many of our typical FPV cameras we've been seeing. But those have been going through years of iterations, and this one hasn't even got a full year of iteration as far as these cameras go, do HD as well as our FPV. I'll draw your attention to the top right. So you have to pay attention to your OSD. We've got the flashing box in white that has record or REC in it, which is a little bit of a distraction, but not terrible. I find the red timer to be more of a distraction. I did not find a setting to where we can turn that off. And maybe we need to have that so that we know how long we've got to record. That way, if we're doing a flight, that we know, well, I've only got, 10 minutes left on this card, so I can only go for 1 or 2 more flights, whatever the case may be. It'll be interesting to see what other companies continue to do as far as new products and iterations on old products. Like I said, I think this is going to be the next thing that we can do, and especially being someone who focuses on micros, I'm pretty excited to see the weight come down. Currently, the weight of this one with some of the mounting hardware comes in at 15 grams. I would like to start to see that get closer to 10, of course. Of course, if we can get down to 7 or 8, that'd be awesome. But I can't imagine we'd get down to 7 or 8 grams, but 10 might be doable in the long run. It might take a year or 2 more. And then it'd be more viable for micros. Typically, you're going to be finding this in 3-inch or larger quads. I think it's going to be really difficult to get in 2.5-inch or 2-inch design frames. So let's jump back to the desk. We can take a look at the OSD settings real quick and maybe a little bit of the board because I do still have it mounted. So a couple of things about my mounting. Now, I have, since I recorded that, made adjustments, and you can see that this, I still get a tiny bit of the carbon fiber in my picture, so I do need to adjust this a little bit more forward. But this is kind of what you're looking at as far as your camera protection. Your lens has to be right up near the edge as far as being level or close to the edge, and that's due to the wide field of view. That's kind of something that we're going to have to live with because HD video doesn't look good unless it's got a wide field of view. Also, they use these really thin and flexible cables, so I zip tied mine to this top piece just to keep it out of harm's way. I didn't want it coming down and getting chopped by a spinning prop. We've got a little clip. This is unprotected, of course. It's just kind of clipped down in a violent crash. Could that come loose? Yeah, possibly. And one of the most interesting things is their hole design. You can see I've got 3 holes that line up with my 20 by 20 stack, and then I've got this guy just kind of hanging out over here. I am very uncertain why that is there, but I suspect many people are saying the same things. Also, we've got our OSD connection here, which we'll connect in a minute and take a look at a few of the settings. And I used a Velcro strap, just like I did with the Runcam Mini 2, to make sure that my SD card did not come out. And I'll move this out of the way and we can take another look at that. So we've got these solder pads across the back, and I cannot read those, so I would suspect we need to look up on their chart. And I'll show a picture in the video if I can find one that's clear about what all these different solder pads are for. We've got our connector here at the back. Hopefully you can see that. And that's how we get our video and everything connected back to our flight controller, so you get OSD through your FPV feed. And then we've got our spring-loaded SD card, micro SD card slot or tray right here. There is nothing to keep that in. It's just got that spring-loaded mechanism, nothing to lock it in. That is why I used the Velcro on top. I went ahead and put my receiver on top, and then I nailed down the pigtail here in order to keep this out of harm's way as well. This might be a funny thing to draw your attention to, but I thought it to be fairly important. It's very likely that you're going to need to download an update right away when you get yours. I have the update on mine. I don't believe another update has come out for us, but we've got a little bit of warranty information, and typically I don't pay attention to these cards, but I was particularly interested because it said free customer support lifetime. And of course, that's not described in any ways. Typically in legal fashions, you want to have everything detailed, described. You make a general statement like this and somebody can hold you to free lifetime customer support in pretty broad terms. It also states, as you can see there, free 1-year warranty for parts and repair, 90-day free replacement or exchange, and 30-day money-back guarantee. So that's a little bit of information that you need to take into consideration when you're looking at these things, because these things aren't cheap. I believe this one comes in at around $69.99 at most vendor locations. You may find it upwards of $75 depending upon who you choose to buy this from. Also in the box, we've got a little extra cable connector that you can use. We've got a camera lens protector, and then we've got our bracket for mounting in other situations, and we have our controller that we'll use here in a moment to show all the little bits and pieces. Down here in the bottom, we've got these brackets, which I'm not sure if this is meant for mini quads or other installations, to where you can mount the board to the back of the camera. That's why we see all these holes. They actually don't include good mounting hardware for putting it on your mini quad, so you're going to have to source that yourself. Important to note there. But if you want to put this maybe on a fixed wing, maybe that's why you can put this board on the back of the camera and 3D print some sort of casing or housing. Maybe that's why they've included those. I thought this is a bit curious. But they went to some effort. You can see they've laser etched, I believe that's laser etching, the Caddx.us right into those plates. Here we are on the OSD settings. I'm not going to go into great detail on every one, but I will show them to you. So here's where you can set a number of things, and you can see them for yourself there. You can notice here that as I press down, it doesn't actually go down. It's going through all the different letters, and if you press and hold it down, it doesn't continue to cycle, so you got to click, 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 click your name all the way through. Video, we've got our resolution, got a couple different options there, 720p, 100 frames per second, 1080p, 60 frames per second, and what I recorded in, which was 1080p, 30 frames per second. I did that because I thought the bit rate was better, because it doesn't increase, in my opinion, enough when going from 30 frames per second to 60 frames per second. So I thought that was a good balance. Then you've got your video loop recording. You can turn that on and off. Your auto recording, which I turned on. That way I wouldn't have to fuss with it. And then the wide dynamic range, which is currently on as well. Camera settings. Now, as far as the camera settings affect not only FPV, but also HD. So you may have to spend some time kind of balancing those two things, because again, it's just one camera. They don't have dual settings. It doesn't apparently have two different boards to control inside there. So it's all settings affect all images. So we've got different exposures, all those different ones you can set. Metering mode, multi-spot, center, field of view, high, medium, narrow, high, flip screen, off and on. That's nice, so if you need to mount it upside down for some reason. I don't think I have mine mounted upside down. I think mine's traditional. light frequency, so if you were flying this indoors, you can set the frequency to the lights that you have. I have noticed that I have one particular light in the house that causes FPV cameras to freak out, so that could be useful for some. Image effect, then you get your saturation, sharpness, contrast, brightness, and then you can of course reset as well. We've got NTSC and PAL, and when you click it, it switches and blurs and then goes back. System settings, auto boot on, language English, SD card info where you can get information about your SD card. You can format your SD card. System info just to show you the version that mine's currently running on. And then you've got factory reset and save and exit there as well. Then we've got our TV ratio 4:3 and 16:9. I prefer 4:3. Oops, set that back. Save and exit. So there you have it. There are all the settings. So I do think a good few many people are very interested in this. And this frame, I'm not sure if you can get this frame or not anymore. It's a NickburnsRC frame. Some people will ask for my recommendation. I have limited experience with machines that will encompass this sort of electronics, but this is another one I have been flying. And as you can see the difference between these two, one is a little bit of an H or wide stance, and the one on the right, which still has props on it, has got a much more traditional X stance. And you also have a little bit different layout as far as the posts go. And then let's look at the profile view. It's not quite as tall. This is the Ascent X HD, I believe is the name of it. It's a 3-inch frame. You can find versions of this for 11OX motors as well. These are two frames you can take a look at. They're both from NickburnsRC. I'll put a link below to the NickburnsRC website and also put a link to the Caddx Turtle. I was almost happy with it if we could just make some more minor improvements. The FPV view on this, if you're looking for my opinion, again, my opinion, it only matters so much. It seems to matter more here on this channel than it does in my household. But this is a little bit more usable in my opinion than the Split Mini. We'll see what the Split Mini 2, we'll see what the Foxeer mix, we'll see what develops out of this. But right now we just have two that are ready to buy. We've got the Split Mini and we've got this one at this time with a single board. And what I've seen so far, I would have to recommend the Caddx Turtle. That's my opinion. I'm sticking to it for now. And if you're watching this video a lot later down the road, check the published date down below. Those other items that I've mentioned may be out. And if you're asking me to compare it, I can't compare it in this video, obviously. So look at a different video on the channel to see if I've actually reviewed those products as well. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, please leave that in that section down below. I appreciate your time. And thanks for watching.